What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Will Brinson, Sia Nejad, Danny Brasco. As I was off there because I was trying to quote tweet the SportsLine tweet. We are live on X and on YouTube. Make sure if you're watching on X, maybe you're wrapping up Bills Chiefs going on. Join us in the YouTube chat. I Love Weed is in a great mood. Cowboys didn't lose today. That's right. Mike Tyson looked like the Cowboys on Friday night in AT&T Stadium. There, got his ass kicked by Jake Paul, and generally looked old and depressing, just like the Cowboys. See ya, Danny. What's up?
What's going on, Brinson? I'm only frustrated that I only had 2.5 units on Jake Paul. It should have been 250.5 units. That was not a pro fight. So yeah, we saw that happen, and now onto a pretty good game, Sunday Night Football. See, I'm excited to talk about this one. Burrow versus Herbert. It's a good matchup.
Yeah. I talked myself into Sia, like maybe Tyson's going to just win this one. I think it was like a boomer bet, basically. Like, I can't handle the greatest boxer of my generation losing to a YouTube star, he said on YouTube. But yeah, it is what it is. Age before whatever Tyson is.
You know, I don't know how much we want to go down this road because I'm not a conspiracy guy, but like it did seem like as tired as Mike Tyson was that he didn't throw some punches that I would have thought he would have thrown. So take that for what you will.
I think Tyson was very interested in not getting knocked out by Jake Paul.
Jake Paul was, I'm going to tell you guys right now, Jake Paul was pretending to knock him out for the last 4 rounds. He was wobbled in the 3rd round, and all those big overhand, whoa, he's got him hurt. This is showmanship. This is pure showmanship.
Yeah.
Plus 275 decision, Jake Paul.
Yeah, there you go. All right, nice job. Let's get to the Bengals and the Chargers. An awesome Sunday night game. Incredible slate. As we mentioned, Bills Chiefs going on right now. We'll once that game ends, we'll welcome in some more folks. But we got an incredible Steelers and Ravens game. Entertaining Thursday night game. Weird no London game, but then we get Bills Chiefs in the afternoon, and now Joe Burrow versus Jamar Chase versus Justin Herbert in the Sunday Night Football game. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite. This is basically a pick 'em with a total of 48. Interesting here, Sia, because we have 2 quarterbacks from the 2020 draft. Herbert's been playing great under Jim Harbaugh. You know, Joe Burrow's finally kind of getting back to looking like a great quarterback after some injury stuff, and really like a massive game for AFC playoff implications. Not to mention 2 kind of contrasting styles.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I think a lot of people, especially after the narrow loss that the Bengals had last week to the Ravens, the casual observer thinks the Bengals are done. But if you look at their odds to make the playoffs, I mean, just like any other AFC team, including the Colts who pulled off a win, there's a lot of teams that are very much in this thing, and that includes the Bengals. I think what's so interesting about this game, first of all, credit to Justin Herbert, because if you recall at the beginning of the season, he was a little banged up. In the last 2 seasons, he's been a little banged up. Like, I think a healthy Justin Herbert, we're starting to see what that looks like in an alleged running offense. This guy's been slinging it, maybe not last game, but the 3 games prior. So even with like very average receivers, he's been able to pull that off. But Joe Burrow, I think both of these guys are going to sling it. I don't think either team's really going to be able to run the ball super efficiently here. So I think this makes for a pretty interesting and exciting game.
Yeah, Danny. So the Chargers over the last month plus, I know that they're top 10. I think they were top 5. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the numbers since last week just because of a bunch of different stuff. But like in terms of pass rate over expectation, this Chargers team is throwing the ball a lot more. So as we get to our picks, and I check to see if you are in fact taking a primetime under, how much does that worry you with your under plus the way that you can attack the Bengals the way that they attack?
Well, it certainly does a little bit. I'm going to talk about the Bengals a little bit more as well, but I'm looking at the primetime under here. It's going to another scary one. They're always scary, right? They're always uncomfortable ones in prime time. But I do think that there's a game script here where we see an under. The Chargers, they've limited every single opponent they've played to 20 points or fewer thus far on the season. Now, the Bengals are going to be their toughest test, but this defense has been really legit. Not only do they play to unders because of a really stout defense, a strong secondary behind Derwin James and company, a good play at the line, but they also just play such a run-heavy possession style on offense behind Jim Harbaugh, who's on just a ridiculous under run. He is an under coach. And you don't normally get totals this high in a Chargers game. Obviously, featuring Joe Burrow, we're going to see a bump up. But the total move from 45 to 48.5, and that goes through a bunch of key numbers up in that range that at this point, I'm willing to take an under. Do I expect some offense? Absolutely, like Sia alluded to. There's going to be a lot of passing and some really good quarterback play here. But 48.5, I don't know if we quite get there. So I'm going to play the under here and look for some defense. The Bengals, two players I'm looking for that have really changed their defense, which is a leaky faucet against the run, are Sheldon Rankins and BJ Hill. They were both questionable coming into tonight. They've been a huge difference maker. So if they're playing, I very much like the under, and I believe that one or both of them will be. We'll keep you guys updated on that, though, during the show.
BJ Hill, shout out to NC State. Look, I think that as Peyton, by the way, Peyton Wilson, like NC State, a literal legend, rookie linebacker for the Steelers, one of the most ridiculous interceptions you will ever see on Sunday, in like running backwards in coverage against Justice Hill. I don't know why I'm on an NC State tangent, but it did happen today. I'm sorry. I am going to take the Bengals in this one, and it flies in the face of what I sort of generally think, because I am a Harbaugh guy through and through. Like, I stand hard for Jim Harbaugh. I said the Chargers are going to win immediately. I remember, like I said, we did Michigan. The Michigan's going to win immediately. And, like, he won big. He wins big everywhere he goes. And I think that you've seen something very similar to what you saw in 2011 with these two teams, right? One, I don't know if I get the stat out. I tweeted out, but fewest points per game allowed by a first-year head coach ever is the 2024 Chargers. Number 2 on that list is the 2011 49ers. That's just Jim Harbaugh. It's all Jim Harbaugh. Rex Ryan 3, by the way, 2009 Jets. John Harbaugh 4th, and then Mike Tomlin 5th on that list. So I'll just give some interesting names. But, like, I think it's a massive coaching mismatch. I think he's doing with Justin Herbert exactly what he did with Alex Smith. Game manager early on, opening up a little bit. Clearly, Herbert much more talented than Smith, who was also a former first overall pick. That'll do it. Speaking of picks, that'll do it for Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes throws a pick to end it. Sorry for your teaser, Danny. Bills money line best bet though. Let's go. Let's go Buffalo. Regular season champions. I think we could see the Chargers, to your point, Danny, look at the way that the Bengals have defended the run recently and say, we're going to open it up and throw the ball around. And I think we could see it from Burrow too. And you got two guys drafted in this like same class. You want to beat, like, there's always those rivalries that exist. I just will not fade Joe Burrow in a massive spot where he needs the win. He's got T. Higgins back. That's huge for this offense. The defense playing a little bit better. And I think even as much as I love Harbaugh and I love Herbert, this is where Joe Burrow shows up and has a big game, attacks the Chargers through the air. I think we see more scoring. I wouldn't want to take the over, but I do think Joe Burrow just finds a way to get it done. Maybe it's just guy with the ball in his hands last wins, and it's Herbert pulling it off. Sia, anything on the side or total for you in this game?
So I want to clarify something. I'm finally checking my DraftKings stuff, and I do the FFT DFS contest. Jeff Sternberg, who is so active in the chat and hilarious and actually kind of sharp too, he said, "Hey, who won your contest?" And it felt like he was saying he won it, but I can't tell by the screen.
Was it you?
So Jeff, it wasn't me. I'm like 78th, but I will say this. The $100 afternoon only single entry, I'm 6th out of 334 for
let's go
plus 700. So that's
go.
But Jeff, if you won, congratulations. So here's the deal on the side.
Did you play Taysom Hill?
I did not.
That was early. Yeah, afternoon. Yeah,
He's on my bench in fantasy.
I'll say this on FFT DFS, me, Mike McClure, Make Shop, we do it every Thursday at 11. We talked about doing the Jameis Winston, Cedric Tillman stack, but not running it back with Kamara, running it back with Taysom Hill, just to have a different stack and run back than everybody else. Now, I played a lot of these, the early and afternoon only. I didn't end up doing that, but hopefully some of the listeners ended up taking that advice. So anyway, I think I like the Bengals here. So here's the thing. I got to give the Chargers a lot of credit. I just finished giving Justin Herbert a ton of credit. Like, this is a good team. It's a solid defense. It's a good quarterback with like decent receivers, very inefficient running game as of late, but I do think Gus Edwards is going to help that out. But I agree with you, Will. Like, you get Joe Burrow locked in, injury-free with T. Higgins back, and we saw what he did against the Ravens without T. Higgins. Now, I get it. That's the Ravens. But let's talk about, and I think Danny has something on this too, the level of competition that the Chargers have faced when it comes to the quarterbacks and the offenses they have faced, it is night and day when you're talking about this Cincinnati Bengals offense. So I think this is one of those situations where the Chargers get caught with a much better offense than what they've played pretty much this entire season, with maybe one or two exceptions. I believe they played Philly, and that might be the best offense they faced. Otherwise, it's like Will Levis and company, right? So I do lean to the Bengals from a side standpoint. I lean to the over because I think we'll have a lot of dynamic passing. But my official play, which you'll hear later, actually comes to a team total.
Okay. I threw this on Jake just now, but I think it is worth mentioning, and I'll filibuster a little bit until we get there, and I forgot about it, but it is something we do on the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show, which is when the Bengals play, and Ken's in here to help us out. Ken's is my official style consultant, being not 43 and rope hat wearing striped polo dude. But I think that when you look at, like, what Joe Burrow wears in the stadium matters to me. The fit that he shows up, I'm telling you, like, the dude is just like, and he showed up in a powder blue, like, Macaulay Culkin looking suit. We can bring it up in a minute, but I mean, like, I don't know. Joe Burrow looks like somebody who could be kind of locked in. So
Brinson.
Yes.
I was gonna say, yeah, if he's got the Dumb and Dumber suit on, then it's game over. Then we know it's Burrow all day. But
it's Dumb and Dumber colored. It's like
I want to piggyback on a bunch of what Sia said and just kind of follow up. Yeah, I'm also on the Bengals money line. We got plus 105. We got a good line, Brinson. So I'll be backing them there too. And first of all, they made Burrow a dog. Like, you don't make Burrow a dog, and he's been so good on the road. As a road underdog for his career, he's 13-5 against the spread. This season on the road, the Bengals are 5-0 against the spread. So what's he got here? Oh, he's got, okay, I like it. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap.
The jacket is like a little short. I don't really get that. That's for my personal dad bod physique. That wouldn't fly. But I mean, Joe Burrow, he looks kind of locked in. Yes, I am a cool, hairy guy. Thank you.
But I wanted to mention some of the list, the quarterbacks that Sia was alluding to. I saw a crazy stat. The Chargers are 22-2 under Justin Herbert when their defense gives up 20 points or less. When they haven't, they're 14-33 otherwise. The Bengals probably are a team that can be the first team this season to get more than 20 on them. And to Sia's point about the QBs they faced, it's Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young, Justin Fields Steelers, the Chiefs in the game that Rashee Rice got severely injured. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals barely got
Spencer Rattler.
James Winston, it hasn't been that tough. So I want to give their defense credit, but I think the Bengals can get them tonight. Burrow with the great road statistics, underdog statistics. They're getting hot at the right time. He had an incredible game last week. So yeah, I got to back all the sentiments on the Bengals tonight.
Yeah, and look, I think that there's something to that idea of who have the Chargers played, and it is absolutely fair when you talk about their wins. It was, I guess, Minshew. You listen to the quarterbacks they beat, right? I mean, like they lost to the Steelers, they lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Cardinals. I don't point this out as a compliment to Harbaugh. It's like there are so very few coaches in the NFL, in college football, at every level of football, who just go out and win all the games you're supposed to win, or just like it's it's like you might not be the better team, but you've got a good matchup, and you just go win the games you're supposed to win. And when you do that, you stack wins, you steal a couple upsets, and all of a sudden you're a playoff team in your first year when the Chargers have done nothing for a very, very long time. So inactives. By the way, if you're watching on x.com. Shout out to our leader of Doge or whatever he is now, Elon Musk. Come join us on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/@SportsLine, and you can jump in the chat and compliment. By the way, Jeff Stimberg did win that contest.
Good stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, good stuff, Jeff. Orlando Brown out again for the Bengals, but maybe mitigate a little bit by the fact that Khalil Mack is inactive for the Chargers. That's a big deal, man. Like, I mean, you got Bosa out there, no DJ Chark as well, no Kamani Vidal, healthy scratch with Gus Edwards back. Be curious to see how those two sort of operate. I do think it's going to be more of a pass-heavy game, even if it's the short stuff. No Sheldon Rankins for the Bengals as well. So, I mean, maybe a little success there running the football. But Look, it's gonna be a fun game. Excited for it, and we of course have lots of player props or props. One, in fact, prop that's not a player prop. Sia, it's not a side or a total. It's probably slots in the props. What you got?
So maybe I'll start there because this one I can't put on SportsLine. There are some like bets where you can find it all sports books, but they're kind of niche. In other words, like we can't have literally every single bet on there, but you can find this particularly at BetMGM. And the reason I'm focused on BetMGM here is because of the odds. You can get most receiving yards, Jamar Chase, at plus 150. The reason that really sort of jumped out to me, because listen, T. Higgins is playing. I understand Quentin Johnston could catch a few long ones, I guess. You got Ladd McConkey. But at DraftKings, this is minus 120. And that's frankly around where it should be. And I went into our SportsLine Discord, Will and Danny, about an hour ago, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and if you guys aren't already in there, please make sure you're in there. Go to sportsline.com. You'll see the Discord link. Maybe Jake will flash it later in the show. But
it's discord.gg/sportsline, I believe.
Boom. So anyway, I put it in there because like that plus 150 is really appealing to me. And again, these are bets that I don't normally look at, but as I was scanning this game, I thought, listen, obviously the Chargers are going to try to take out and limit Jamar Chase. I totally get that, but there's only so much you can do. T. Higgins is probably going to get the benefit of maybe some single coverage, some soft coverage, but I still think Jamar Chase at plus 150 at BetMGM is good for most receiving yards. This is in the game, not on the team, in the game. Okay, my actual official play, and we've kind of addressed it. Let me point out this too. Chase Brown, most rushing yards, is minus 125. We know at this point that Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins will be splitting work. J.K. Dobbins' rushing prop is starting to come down from like 56.5 to 55.5 to just now 52.5. Gus Edwards around 30.5. So I do want to point that out. Those most yards per contest thing, you can do that for Chase Brown as well. It's minus 125. My official play, Bengals team total over 23.5. Listen, I just don't think this Chargers defense has faced an offense like this. I think Chase Brown will be okay on the ground, but not super successful, just like the other side of the ball with the Chargers. I do think both teams are going to have to pass. That's going to stop the clock a lot on both sides of the ball. And I think we're going to see Joe Burrow successful, just like we saw him last week. So give me 24 points or more for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Interesting to note, too, by the way, just looking at ownership projections for Showdown. I know we don't cover DFS on this particularly, but Chase Brown, it's pretty flat across the board. Nobody's in that 20 range, which was a little surprising. But Chase Brown is the top at around like 16%. Jamar Chase, 12%. T. Higgins, 11.5%. And then, in other words, you got to get three Bengals before you even get to the first Charger captain, who's Ladd McConkey, and the quarterback's kind of suppressed. I tend to think like a quarterback double stack is not a bad look. Maybe go like Joe Burrow and Higgins and Chase, and then bring it back with some pass catchers. We'll see.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I have. Do you want to give out you give out both of them? Yeah.
But let me say something as well, because if you still can get J.K. Dobbins under 56.5 rushing yards, because Drew Martin is asking, I do like that. It has moved to 52, 53.5 in some places. I do like Dobbins under. He's been very inefficient, and I think Gus Edwards right now, because he's so north-south, is probably the more efficient runner when it comes to the two. So I would fade the Dobbins prop. I would take the under. I really wanted the under 14.5 rush attempts, which was offered like 2 days ago. Now it's at 13.5. I lean to the under, but I'd prefer to take the yards. So Drew Martin, I would take Dobbins under 56.5 rushing yards.
I'm only putting this comment up because it's objectively funny as you tell us to take the under on J.K. Dobbins rushing yards. J.K. in the chat says, hi, good job, guys. Like, oh boy. J.K. is listening. Probably not. I do think Gus could be more involved, especially like in the red zone. And Dobbins this injury history for Dobbins is long, man. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they say, all right, we're in week 11. We know nobody's guaranteed a playoff spot, but we feel good about where we are. If we get to the playoffs, we want J.K. Dobbins to be healthy and to not have too much wear and tear given his injury history. So I think Edwards being on IR, they brought him back and used him a lot right away. And like the fact that Kamani Vidal was on, it was an inactive, basically a healthy scratch last week and this week, says how they feel about where Edwards is. So yeah, I mean Dobbins overs. Not touchable. I think Dobbins unders certainly the look there. I am going to go for my player prop. I will take Justin Herbert, speaking of rushers for the Chargers, Justin Herbert over 15.5 rush yards. he's been, everyone's seen the viral clip, I'm sure by now, where like Jim Harbaugh says, let's fake it, we're going to run it. Like I think as we get, and remember, again, the Alex Smith stuff. Remember, Alex Smith famously in the NFC Championship game against the Giants, I believe, Danny, if you recall. Alex Smith ripped off some long touchdowns, some long runs in that game. Justin Herbert's a great runner. And I think as the season progresses and as the Chargers really get into crunch time, they're going to trust not only Justin Herbert to run with the football, but also Greg Roman is going to open up that playbook that has consistently featured running quarterbacks. And so Herbert, who dealt with the plantar fasciitis in the preseason, now we feel like he's good to go. I think he's going to run a little bit more down the stretch, especially in crunch time in these big games. And I don't think this is a game where we see 3 long kneel downs or anything like that. So I like Justin Herbert over rush yards, 15.5, a little juice. And then even more juice, I don't care. T. Higgins over receptions, 4.5. T. Higgins is back. Like Jamar Chase has been going nuclear. He leads the league in receiving yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns. He's on pace to be the 5th ever Triple Crown guy. And you know what? Defenses are going to look his way. And this is where T. Higgins steps up and where Joe Burrow thrives the most. When T. Higgins is healthy on the field, it's a spotlight game for T. Higgins. Maybe he's even, it's not outrageous to suggest the Chargers could look at T. Higgins in free agency, right? I mean, this is a team that has Lad McConkey, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson. T. Higgins would be a really nice compliment there. And I think T. Higgins, as the season, again, gets along longer, knows that every big game he has gets him more and more money in free agency when the Bengals don't sign him. So I like a lot of T. Higgins overs in the spot. I will go receptions. Danny, you have a Joe Burrow prop.
Yeah, we're liking the Bengals in a number of ways tonight. Sia likes him to score. And I think we can all hit our props. I think, he can find T. Higgins, which we know they're so much more efficient even on offense than they already have been with their Batman for the Robin to the Batman of Jamar Chase. But I'm going to take Joe Burrow not to throw an interception tonight. I think he has a clean sheet, and I think he throws just another masterful game here. He's only thrown 4 interceptions on the season, 1 in 4 games, so out of 10 so far. So minus 105 are the correct odds, actually. We're still getting value, right? He's not thrown 1 in 6 of 10 games. And really, it's the scheme. I know that the Chargers have been very, very good and stout on defense. We mentioned the weaker schedule of opposing quarterbacks they faced, but they also play zone coverage at the highest rate in the NFL. Joe Burrow leads all qualified quarterbacks in completion rate against zone coverage at 81.1%. He is just diming against zone. And I think if you also, an issue for the Chargers is that they don't get great pressure. They're bottom 5 in the league in QB pressure rate. So if you're going to sit back in zone and rely on those guys to just play incredible coverage against this type of wide receiver cast, against this type of quarterback, he's going to pick you apart. So I think he has a really great game tonight once again. And that must
too soon.
It's just funny. Yeah, too soon.
I do look a little green tonight. Yeah, I look like that buffering quality on round 4 when I'm wondering if Mike Tyson's getting knocked out. But yeah, I like Joe Burrow, clean sheet, no interception tonight. Minus 105 for Joe Burrow. Come on, he's not throwing one.
By the way, little conspiracy theory on the Netflix thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but over the last I'm hesitant to say. Listen, I'm not going to tell you what I was watching. Needless to say, Netflix has been doing over the last week or 2 weeks more and more. They've been doing the "Are you still watching?" thing really aggressively and really early. And I think it's because they wanted to try to, if people were just left their TVs on with Netflix on, or fell asleep, they wanted to get as not people off, but non Mike Tyson, Jake Paul watchers off, so they could hold up, and it still didn't. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough. I blame my child, who is not in the chat. Okay, let's get to some questions from the chat. Somebody asked, Sia, is Dobbins under 56.5 an official play?
I mean, technically it's not, but I got to be honest. I was going back and forth before the show on that being an official play. I think the reason I didn't make it one is because earlier in the week, I was dead set on taking his under rushing attempts at 14.5. And because I missed that number, now you can still get it at 13.5, but that is kind of a big difference. Because I missed that, I just decided I was going to be off Dobbins, but I think 56.5 is too many. So, Gene, to answer your question, no, it's not an official play technically, but it probably should be. So I definitely think it's a play that you can make confidently.
And somebody also asked, and Danny, you can jump in if you want, on a combo, JK under 76.5 combo line.
It is like suspiciously low, right? Considering the Bengals have struggled against the run. Rankins is out now. BJ Hill, I think, is the more important of that duo in terms of defensive tackles. He's the more talented, but even so, Dobbins has been a workhorse back, right? So 50, 56, it's suspiciously low. I kind of like their under look. I'm not playing it, but I would agree with their side as well.
I just want to look really quickly at they blew out both of the last they blew out both of the Titans and the Browns. I'm just curious to see if Dobbins had 15 carries for 50 yards.
He's been extremely inefficient since week 2. Extremely, which is why Gus Edwards is starting to make some noise. Even last week, he looked, there's no question about it. He actually looked better than J.K. Dobbins, which is why I think an interesting look is to take Gus Edwards over 30.5 rushing yards. The only reason I didn't do that is because I think this is going to be more of a passing affair. But I really like the idea of taking the under on J.K. Dobbins yards and the over on Gus Edwards yards. Yeah,
and I think too, with the rushing stuff, again, they blew out the Browns, they blew out the Titans. I think the Bengals are going to, by virtue of their passing game, stay in this one and not allow the Chargers to just get into hunker down and pound the ball mode. But if you're the Chargers, right now is when you should shift some of the carries to Gus Edwards, who is a trusted Greg Roman, longtime running back, a guy who's great in the red zone, and a guy who, maybe not efficient in his own right, can still run the football well enough to ease the burden off of Dobbins. I don't think we're going to see a 26 carry game from Dobbins, in other words, like we saw earlier in the year. Reek threw out Gus Edwards 2 touchdowns.
That would have to be a huge plus number.
On Thursday's show, I suggested going David Montgomery 2 touchdowns and Joe Mixon 2 touchdowns, and then didn't bet it. So I'm on Mike McClure's advice of David Montgomery 2 touchdowns. So I'm a little mad about that, but what can you do? Here we are. Joe Burrow over 250 pass yards and over 1.5 passing touchdowns is plus 110. It probably gets there.
I like
it. It's just
it's fine.
It's just you just got 2. I like it. It's good. Good look, Sean Ritchie. Burrow 10 rushing yards, minus 110. It's a huge game. Burrow's willing to use his legs. Don't have a problem with it. I do think they'll be passing more, but Burrow's looked pretty spry lately, and I don't hate it. I don't
keep in mind, what Danny said earlier, the lack of a pass rush might just mean Joe Burrow sits back in the pocket. That doesn't mean he's not going to rush, but it does mean this is not a game where he's going to be necessarily more prone to rushing, which is why, to me, yes, it can hit, but I don't think there's a lot of value in making that bet.
And no Khalil Mack as well now.
I'm sorry, I keep muting. I just don't want to cough in front of the entire live stream. Mike Gesicki 2 touchdowns, 25-1.
Been hot.
You're asking a lot. He got 9 targets last week and was extremely inefficient with them. I think we'll see Chase and Higgins down by the end zone and/or Chase Brown. So,
and Tanner Hudson made an impact too. There's a lot of pass catchers on this team.
Yeah, maybe if you want to sprinkle on it, go for it. I would be surprised if he scores 1. Josh Palmer receiving yards is only 28.5. Seems low. I do agree with that. I think that's a little low for Palmer. They've got 3 receivers that are they work well together, Quentin Johnson, Lab McConkey, and Palmer, but he can get there in the first half if they throw the ball a bunch. I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it at all. Dicker over 1.5 field goals.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, he's a great kicker. I'm not paying minus 140 on a field goal prop in this one, since I think both offenses might be pretty efficient. I think that's why you're seeing the over trend up versus earlier in the week. But if you were asking me if he's going to hit that, I would say yes, but I don't know that I'm willing to pay minus 139 to find out.
And worth noting too, you have the Chargers, who are a ground and pound team, are willing to be physical at the line of scrimmage, might go for it on 4th and short. And I don't know that Zach Taylor's aggressiveness from last Thursday is going to carry over for the rest of the season. He was hyper aggressive on 4th down against the Ravens. And that Bengals still in a must-win game. So there's a chance that he rolls it over and he's still aggressive on fourth down. In that case, if they're going for it, maybe the Chargers go for it. And so it could kind of take it out a little bit.
I think
Chase Brown over 20.
I was going to say, I think Evan McPherson, the Bengals kicker on the other side, has the equal chance of hitting that. The Chargers have, I believe, are third in red zone efficiency on defense. So they've been really stout inside the 20-yard line. So perhaps Bengals can get on the board through field goals.
You're worth noting, McPherson's been bad too, though. So like they may very well decide not to kick some of those field goals. Chase Brown over 28.5 receiving for anybody?
I'm not mad at this. I had his over receiving yards last week. We saw what he did. He ended up having 9 catches. I wish I laddered up his receptions. He went way over this. He's become a really reliable target. I was interested in his rush plus receiving yards. There's a prop I considered, but it's up near 100 now. I mean, he's a premier player. He's getting priced like a star running back would. I believe it's around 92.5 rush plus receiving yards. Lean towards over, but too rich for my blood, so I stayed away.
Okay. Cincy over 10.5 first half. I like that.
Sure. Yeah. Cody, it would help if you put the number. I assume because you didn't, it's close to -110 or -115. But I agree. I think I like that as well.
Yep. Will Dissly over 40+ yards from I Love Weed.
I saw Wu-Tang Forever talking about this too. I saw a few people asking about Dissly. He was someone I considered as well. Yeah. I was looking at his over 4.5 receptions at +110. He's become a pretty focal point of the offense, and Hayden Hurst remains out. We saw him on the inactive list, so it's going to be more of the Will Dissly show. He's good in third and short, picking up those 7-yard first downs, like out routes. I kind of like Dissly. So, yeah, he's become a pretty familiar target of Herbert. It's getting up there in terms of, he can have 5 catches for 30 yards. He's not breaking off huge chunks. But if they're featuring him, I think he can go over this number.
He's got 27 targets. The receiving yardage numbers are huge. That's why I think receptions maybe a little bit better. 27 targets in the last 4 weeks for Will Dissly. Also worth noting, like they went out and got him in free agency expressly because he's a really good run blocker. And that lets him do stuff in the play action game where he can, I'm not going to compare him to George Kittle or anything like that by any means, but same sort of thing where, you have a guy who's such a stout run blocker with that's not being the focal point of like defenses but his yardage he's not going to get many yards per catch. Gipper's picks, shout out Gipper's picks.
His favorite
says both teams make a 33+ yard field goal, even money. Sure.
This is the signature Gipper's picks primetime play. We all have our signature primetime plays. I'm known for the under. Brinson's known for Al Michaels' visionary voices. Gippers is now known for both teams for a 33-yard field goal. I love it, dude.
Okay. A couple more. We got to get to our first touchdown picks. All right. Sia, you're getting peppered here in the chat. Sia, Hudson over 1.5 receptions, even money.
Oh, hi, Lori. Lori's always in these chats, so big shout out to her.
Shout out, Lori.
At +100. So it's so different now because we have T. Higgins back. I do lean to Hudson over, but I don't know that we can look at last week and we could have a complete role reversal forget about T. Higgins, between Tanner Hudson and Mike Gesicki. So this is one of those that it's like, I think the right answer is over here. I think he's probably going to get like 3 receptions, and I think Joe Burrow is going to pass it all over the place. With that said, not an official play, but definitely a lean, Lori.
Okay. Also, Sia, do you like Herbert over 1.5 pass touchdowns from Kylie Reynolds? I don't think we did that one yet.
Yeah, Kylie, I think that number is in the plus department, so that would be important to know. I'm pretty sure it's in like the +110 department. I don't hate it because I like the number of +110, and I do think we've seen Herbert really kind of air it out. And because the Bengals' rush defense has been a little bit better lately, I think when they get near the goal line, you're not necessarily going to see Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, rush it in. So yeah, at a plus number, I like the over here.
Okay, Herbert under 21.5 completions, under in all games except for one. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, just the nature of this game. I think it could get into a situation where guys are throwing the ball a little bit, and they have such good underneath weapons that I'd be a little worried.
I agree. I was going to say, it's Burrow versus Herbert. It's Sunday night. I do like your look there and that it's trended so, heavily to the under, but the nature of the beast, like Brinson said, it might lend itself to like a shootout or Herbert wanting to go back right at Burrow and get one back after he scores on him,
And I do want to note that because this is one of the first ones I looked at. I like to look at completions and pass attempts on all the games I research. It was 22.5 yesterday. So now you've already like lost some value on the 21.5. And I loved to this person's credit. I really liked the under 22.5 yesterday, but then I started to look a little deeper into what we've been talking about this whole show with not a lot of teams challenging this Chargers defense from an offensive standpoint. So I think that's why this one seems more efficient than maybe something to take advantage of.
Yeah, and just to note on that, I'm looking at Herbert's stats right now. So first 4 weeks of the season, they go 2-2. He's under that number. People are complaining that Harbaugh's neutering him, but he's got that plantar fasciitis. They're trying to sort of figure out what their identity is. 21 against Denver in a one-score game. 27 completions in the loss to Arizona, only 17-15 score. And then the last 3 weeks, they destroy New Orleans, destroy Tennessee, Cleveland, destroy Tennessee. So it's like, if it's a competitive game, I would be cautious of that. I just think it's more likely to go over. And then finally, we're running way behind. Quentin Johnson ladder. Is that what do you think? Sia, do you have an official ladder play by any chance?
Yeah. So in the Discord on Thursday, I think people were asking about a ladder, and I didn't reveal who I was going to call out, but it was Quentin Johnston after all. And so the thing is, he doesn't get a lot of targets, but when he does get targets, they're typically downfield. And this could be the type of game, right? This could be the type of game against a Cincinnati back end where it actually would work out. So 50 plus, you're getting plus money, 60 plus, you're getting plus 185, 70 plus, plus 280. I mean, I'd probably stop at 60 plus. It's not like the perfect ladder opportunity in my opinion, but that QJ would be the guy I would pinpoint there.
By the way, he had 4 catches today, but Jameson Williams, $124 on 4 catches. Like that's what we're talking about. Explosive downfield guys who aren't going to rack up tons of receptions, but can go off at any time. Like, I mean, Jameson, the combo, the parlay wouldn't have hit, but you would have been in it if not for one of those early catches. Yeah. Okay. I believe I have a parlay. Jake, do we want to throw up my Brinson parlay? This is 8 legs. I think it's like 8 or 9 legs. It's ridiculous. 8 legs. Joe Burrow over passing touchdowns 1.5. These are all like way juiced down. Ladd McConkey to record 50-plus receiving yards. Alt over 43.5. I mess around with 41.5. Probably get burned on that. That's fine. Chase Brown, anytime touchdown score. Ladd McConkey over 4.5 catches. Joe Burrow to record 250 passing yards. T. Higgins to record 50 receiving yards. And J.K. Dobbins to combine for 50 rushing and receiving. So a lot going on here. Only 9-1. That's how like low these are. I just think it's like I think it's a game that gets you guys have me a little scared about the Dobbins one too now. But I mean, any 3 or 4 of those stand out as bad to you guys?
Not really. I mean, they're all pretty reasonable. I think what's interesting is, I mean, it's probably not. You got the Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns, but then the Chase Brown anytime touchdown. So it almost looks like you're looking for Chase Brown to catch one, which he very well could. But I mean, obviously like that, you could have a problem there, but this is plus 900. I mean, so that's a pretty nice number. JK is probably to your point, the main issue I have with this one, but I like it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we just need 50 receiving and rushing. It's not like it's 50 rushing. Yeah. It's, I mean, like, yeah, it's look, I was messing around with the app trying to build a parlay for Jake. And it was like it was hard to get stuff you feel really comfortable with in this game. That it's like 75 receiving yards for Higgins, et cetera, et cetera. So I took some weird stuff. We'll see if it hits. Hopefully for my bank account, it does. Mm-hmm. We've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet. If your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame, straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown of the game, win your wager is normal. If your player scores the second touchdown of the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log in to BetMGM for more details. And we get to our first touchdown scores. I believe Sia and I have diamond hands. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Which means, Sia, per the rules, I defer to you. Because I'm a gentleman and you have a diamond.
All right. I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston. I will say this. Disley is really appealing to me here, but I just have a picture of the Chargers really kind of game plan wise. I would want to give J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards as much room as possible by maybe airing it out early. And we know Justin Herbert is very capable of doing that. Your early deep threat is going to be Quentin Johnston. And it wouldn't surprise, speaking of ladders, it wouldn't surprise me if he catches a deep 140 plus. So I like the number. It's around 15-1 at most places. I'll take Quentin Johnston first touchdown.
I don't like Quentin Johnston at all. I think I would sort of piggyback on what you said. I would not be surprised at all if the Chargers came out with a pass-first game plan, hoping to go out, score an early touchdown, or obviously no defense, get a stop, then go score an early touchdown to get a lead, to run the ball, to force the Bengals to become one-dimensional and make Joe Burrow throw a bunch and be advantageous on defense. So, I think given just the way that the Bengals skill guys are concentrated between Higgins, Chase, Brown, no rushing quarterback in Joe Burrow, or unlikely to rush quarterback in Joe Burrow in terms of in the red zone. Like if you want value on a first touchdown score, you need to look at the Chargers. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to take Justin Herbert, who's running the ball more often. He's playing some really good football. He had 9 rushes last week for 32 yards and a touchdown. And then you look 3, 4, and 2 the previous 3 weeks. But I think that I really think they're going to start activating his legs as we get later in the season. You see this all the time with like efficient rushing quarterbacks, where when it's nut cutting time, for lack of a better phrase, they're going to run the ball more frequently. And I think Herbert, if he gets a look in the red zone close to the goal line, could try to run it in, particularly if they bootleg him out on like a second down with Gus Edwards play action. So I'll go Herbert 19-1. I think it's really good value there. Danny, you are going to take probably the best value on the Bengals side.
Well, yeah, I like both of your guys' play, by the way. Brinson, I previously on a show before took Herbert anytime TD, and it was my quote-unquote that boy strong play, and it didn't end up coming through. But he's like you mentioned, that boy's strong. He's a good runner, so I like it. And then I like the deep shot ladder. Speaking of what we're known for, the ladder play potentially on Johnson. I'm liking both of those. I'm going to go with Tanner Hudson, who's just your classic like body double. Wait, that wasn't Jasicki. I had Jasicki first. And then it's Tanner Hudson, right? How many times have you taken Travis Kelce and it was Noah Gray? This is how it goes. I'm waiting for this to happen more often because, like we keep talking about, so much chalk on first touchdown scores this season. We pick plus 1,000 or longer. But I'm going to go Tanner Hudson to be the guy who's actually all of a sudden involved in this Bengals offense. He had 7 targets last week, 6 catches, 42 yards. And I believe he did the play that the Jets tried to run today with Aaron Rodgers pretending not to know what's going on, and then they snap the ball and to a tight end and get a QB sneak. That was Tanner Hudson. It didn't work for the Jets, but it worked for Hudson. So this guy's getting involved. Maybe he finds the end zone first. 2,500. Give me Tanner.
Okay, I'm just going to really quickly shout out to things in the chat because it's just outrageous. If Japan calls this and it hits, you're a legend. Scott Matlock, who is a red-haired fullback and has, I think he's technically a fullback. That I believe he has. I don't think he has a whole lot of. Maybe he's a defensive lineman. He's listed at fullback for them. So I guess they bring him in a fullback.
I do this for a living. I don't think I know who that is. So wow.
I told somebody today a player scored for the Jets, and I was like, I don't mind saying this. I don't know who that was. And it was like Yahweh or something like that.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy. Yahweh. Jesus, he descended down and scored. No, but I was like, who the hell is Aaron Rodgers third? Because I was eyeing it for Breece Hall for DFS, but Matlock with 1 T. If he scores first, that is an incredible call. Also, I don't know if Jeff Stenberg, champion of the Fantasy Football League, is being serious or sarcastic, but Hassan Haskins' first touchdown is 100-1. Not out of the realm of possibility. The only thing I would say, Jeff, is that he scored against the Titans last week. That was blatantly by Jim Harbaugh, get it back at your old team, rushing touchdown. But look,
he scored.
He scored.
Yeah.
100-1. He's sprinkling 100-1, man. I don't know. Why not? Especially with Chargers, guys who might run the ball down in the red zone. They'll do weird stuff in that Greg Roman offense. Okay, let's recap all of our bets. We'll get you out of here. Great show. Danny on the Bengals money line plus 105, the under 48.5, and Joe Burrow no interceptions minus 105. I am also on the Bengals money line at plus 105. T. Higgins over 4.5 receptions, and Justin Herbert over 15.5 rush yards. Sia has the Bengals team total over at 23.5. I love that. And Jamar Chase plus 150 for most receiving yards. A great look as well for the guy who has the most receiving yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns in the league. Okay, that'll do it for us. Awesome show. Awesome game coming up tonight. For Danny, for Sia, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.